Hi, everybody, and welcome to the final Meet Cute Monday. I'm so excited to have you all here, and I'm so grateful to all of you for showing up every week, and even if you only show up on occasion. Thank you for coming by and for supporting this series, as well as supporting my book, which comes out tomorrow. As you know, Meet Cute Monday was a way of counting down until my debut tomorrow, so I wanted to end the series with another author who will be debuting with me tomorrow and whose book is all about counting down. So, Tashie, would you like to introduce yourself and your book?
Yeah, hi, I'm Tashie Bhuiyan, and I'm the author of Counting Down with You, which is also a YA contemporary, just like Emery's book. And mine also has fake dating, so we love that for both of us.
I feel like we just like kind of like partnered so well on this, like, and then like we're both with the same publisher and everything. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be the ultimate sign off is having us do this episode together.
This fits. It's like
Yeah. It was just like perfect. And of course, my book is Meet Cute Diary, a YA rom-com about a trans boy, his romance blog, and the fake relationship that he stages in order to save that blog from a troll. I have linked another panel that Tashie and I actually did together talking about the fake dating trope and romance. So definitely go ahead and check that out once you're done catching up here.
We love fake dating.
Yes, fake dating. And I'm like, I feel like I don't know how it happened that I feel like this year we just like took over like with fake dating. Like there's so many good fake dating books. Like,
yeah, I feel like it's never going to be like a thing where like in the future where people are like, oh, like, do you have any fake dating recommendations? Now there's like so many to offer, but before it was like
so
just
many.
all the boys.
Yeah, exactly. It's like at this rate, it's gonna be like if you are hungry for fake dating, you will be fed. Do not worry, you're taken care of this year.
Meal.
Yeah, like we had you in mind and we knew exactly what to do. So I hope all is well. So oops. Let's just go ahead and get straight into the questions then. So the first thing I wanted to ask you is what was your favorite part about writing Counting Down with You?
I think my favorite part about writing the question is, do you mean like writing, like what's my favorite part was in the book, or my favorite part like the process?
Both.
Okay. My favorite part, I think, of writing the book was writing the grandmother relationship with Karina, because Karina has a really supportive grandmother. And I feel like we don't see a lot of grandparent relationships in books often, especially in like YA books. I feel like it's more common in like the younger ages. So I was really excited to be able to kind of showcase that in Counting Down with You. And I think it's like really one of like the main cores of the book. Like it's really the heart of it. I feel like most people come out of the book and they're like, yeah, my favorite character was the grandma. And I was like, you know what? Valid of you. I support it. But yes, but I think my favorite part of like the process was like holding my book for the first time, which I feel like you could probably relate to. Like the first time I got to like actually like physically hold it, I was like, how is this happening right now? Like, what is going on? Like, it was just so wild that like something we created, like our brainchild was like a physical form.
Yeah, like it's like I feel like it's like the sudden realization because I feel like they tell you you're writing like obviously when you write a book, you're hoping it's gonna get published.
Right.
Like you have like this, of course people are gonna read it, it's gonna be so cool. But I feel like you kind of like go through the process and like everything takes so long and everything is so like convoluted and you're kind of like, okay, whatever, like I'm writing, haha. Like, oh yes, I got a book deal. Yes, I sold the book. This is so exciting. But then it's like the moment that you're like,
I wrote this. Wait. Like, I did this. I did the thing.
Yeah, like, oh shit, it's actually real. Like, this is not just like hypothetical anymore.
Wild.
But I want to go back to what you're saying about the grandmother in the book because I feel like that's something that we miss out on a lot in YA is like family relationships. And I know, like, especially like in the fantasy sphere, like it tends to be like, oh, well, like, how are we gonna motivate these characters? We'll kill their mom, or like.
I'll admit I'm guilty of that in fantasy as well. Like, Convenience. Just
It is, and I feel like to a certain extent too, when you have a character who's like 15 to 17, it's like, how do we get them out of the house? Like, well, the parents gotta tell them no, so we kind of gotta get rid of those.
A healthy amount of trauma, you know, like get with a healthy backstory.
Yeah, it's like, well, we'll just clean it up later. But I feel like I do love a good like familial relationship, especially like I feel like you were saying too about like grandparents. Like I feel like it's so underexplored, but I feel like for a lot of people, I feel like especially for a lot of people of color, like we have good relationships with our grandparents, or at least like we have like strong, like I feel like intergenerational like connections. Yeah. And so I really do love that you explored that in your book, and like I'm assuming that had some sort of some level of importance to you, that you were like, make sure to include like these family relationships.
Sure. The book is dedicated to my grandma and Harry Styles. Priorities in order, as you can tell. Obviously, it's about my father who raised me and my grandmother who raised me. The two opposite ends of the spectrum of being raised.
There you go.
What was your favorite part of writing yours?
I feel like, which is so funny, but I feel like I'm very much like Noah, where like his whole thing is that he's like a dreamer, and he's like, oh, like what if this cute romance? What if that cute romance? And so I feel like for me, I actually really, really loved like brainstorming like these like meet cutes, and like, oh, what about like this fake romance that's never actually gonna happen, but we'll like cue it in there anyways. So I feel like that was like just like kind of like the fun like play of it, like the brainstorming where it doesn't actually have to amount to like a full book or like a full like fully realized story, but just something like oh, what if?
Yeah,
like,
brainstorming is so fun, just like ping-ponging ideas.
Yes, and I love it, and I love especially when like the idea doesn't have to be good.
Yeah. Because it's so early on, it doesn't even matter. I feel like I love like throwing ideas at my friends, and like I'm like, this makes no sense right now, but hear me out.
I used to do that all the time on Twitter. Is I would be like, guys, I just came up with the worst idea ever. Like, listen to it, and then people would be like, write it, and then I'd be like pressured to like write this like chaotic like shit post idea.
I think that would be your right to write a shit post book. That would be.
I think the worst part is when you're like, oh yeah, like haha, this shit post idea, and then someone's like, you have to write that now, and you start thinking about it, and you're like, oh shit, I think I actually came up with something I could actually write. And now you're like, oh god,
now you're fucked. Yeah.
Like, great, now I have to figure this whole thing out. Like, awful. Oh, so this is a fun question. What are you most looking forward to when you officially debut tomorrow?
Oh my god, I'm so excited to go into a bookstore and like pick out the book. Like, obviously I'll be masked and like I'll have my like, but like I'm so excited to just like walk in and like see it on like a shelf. Like I feel like that's on par with like holding it for the first time, because it's like seeing it in a public place where you didn't put it yourself. Like somebody else put that on the shelf. Somebody else is gonna buy it. Like, that's so wild to me. So I'm so excited to be able to do that. And like, I'm going to like drag my friends with me. So I feel like it's going to be like a little hype party. Like, it's going to be really fun.
Yes. I'm like, I'm so excited for that too. And like, I already have two friends who are like, okay, y'all are coming with me. We're going to go. And like, I have partnered with a couple local indies, so I have to go in and like sign with them.
I have to sign mine too. I don't know when, but I need to I feel like that's anyways.
But yeah, I'm just so excited to just like walk into the store and like be like, oh, hello. Like first of all, I feel like the power that it has to introduce yourself. Yes, I'm the author of like, you know what I mean? Because you're not just, it's not like, oh, like, can I help you? Oh, I was just looking for this book. No, I'm the author of this book.
Oh my god, this reminds me. I want to say like a year and a half-ish ago. I already had my book deal and stuff, but I was at this bookstore with my friend, and she just started like, we were at the register, like we were checking out books, and she just started talking. She was like, oh my god, I can't wait till I'm doing this with your book, blah blah blah. And the bookseller was like, oh, like, do you have a book? And I was like, oh yeah, like it's actually like a real, like, yeah, like with HarperCollins, like blah blah blah. And she was like, oh, I'll give you the author discount. And I was like, the author discount?
There's an author discount.
Oh my god. And then she literally gave me like a 10% discount. It was Books of Wonder, so God bless. We love to see it. I have an event with them tomorrow if you want to tune in, just saying. Anyways, but yeah, I thought it was so wild. I was like, you guys have an author discount, like that's a thing, and I get to have it.
That's so cool.
It's funny because I didn't even feel like a real author at that point. It was so like, it was still like a few months in, so I was like,
That's so cool. Oh my god. Yeah, no, I feel like if someone gave me like an author discount, I would just be like, I'm like, do you need like evidence? Like, do I
Right.
have
I
to
was like, should I pull up the Goodreads page? Like,
like I went to a Barnes and Noble the other day with my friend, and she was like, we were like, I wonder if they have the books like in the back yet. Like maybe they have them there. So I was like, we should ask, because if they're there, like I can sign some. And so we like went, we were like go like trying to find somebody to ask, and she was like, but wait, do we have to like prove that you're an author? Like do you have to like prove it? I was like, should I like pull up my contract? How do I prove that I'm the author of the book? Like like
yeah. I've actually seen people tag us in like pictures where they're like, I have the books, and I was like,
yeah, like
so I guess some Barnes and Nobles are putting them out there early, which is kind of wild.
it's so wild. Yeah, and I think I'm assuming it has to do with like location, like when they actually receive them. But
Yeah.
when I went into my store, they were like, we have them ordered, but they haven't arrived yet. And I was like, well, that makes sense because we live so far from New York. But I was just like, God, that's so cool.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like tomorrow we can actually go in and like literally sign from any store, presumably. Like,
Like, yeah, I mean, like pretty much like there's like I have like a local bookstore like not that far. I'm gonna like stop in and be like, hey, you guys have a copy? Like, you need to sign it. Like
it's gonna be so cool.
so cool. I'm like, ah, yes. And like I feel like it's gonna be cool too, just to like because like I feel like right now like people are slowly getting copies, like pre-orders are coming in early, and like people are going to, like, the store and finding it. But like I feel like once it's like actually on shelves and everyone can just like pick it up anywhere, it's like at any point in time, like someone.
Yeah, it's just we're gonna be perceived forever now. Like it's done. Which is kind of scary, but also exciting.
You're right. It's like one of those. Like it's so cool, but also really like kind of creepy. But also like so cool.
Like people we don't know are gonna know us. Like that's kind of wild.
That yeah. I'm like waiting for the day that I'm like casually like at like a coffee shop or something,
Oh God,
and I see someone like holding a copy, and I'm just like,
oh my God, yeah. Like my one of my author like bucket list things is like seeing someone read it on the subway and me just like being across from them being like, like I feel like that's so cool. It would also be so cool like if they don't know you, like because like a lot of people are casual readers where they don't actually know what the author looks like or anything, like they're just reading the book. So to be able to go up to them and be like, hey, like I'm the author, like that's actually me.
I feel like I would do the opposite. Like I would pretend that like I had nothing to do with the book. I'd be like, oh, that's an interesting book. What are you reading? Oh, you like it? Like, oh, that's cool.
If they said no, I would kill myself.
I would just be like,
Hi.
I was like, oh, that's okay. Well, bye. I feel like I would feel so awkward. Can you imagine, like, if you like, for instance, like, I don't know how many people like pick up a book and actually like look at like the stuff in the back. Like when I pick up a book, I feel like sometimes like I'll pick up a book and I'll be like, oh, this sounds interesting. I'll just like flip to the back cover and be like, oh, look, that author looks cute. Like, oh, look at whatever. But like, can you imagine if like you're like talking to someone, like you see, like you randomly see someone like reading your book, and you like go up to them or whatever, and they just like look at you. They just like look at the back flap, and they're like,
and you're like, oh, sorry, I don't. That feels like a meet cute.
That oh,
Meet cute. Much to think about.
Much to think about. I'm like, holy shit, that's so meta. Can you imagine if like I had like a meet cute with somebody reading Meet Cute Diary, like.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
I think that would be powerful. I think the universe needs to manifest that now.
I agree. Yeah, like that's like holy shit. Like that's when you know the stars like have aligned. Like that's just like that whole no, that's destiny. That's amazing.
I want that for you.
I love how like I feel like we just had like I don't know, like that was like the most like absurd just like spiral, but like yeah, like but the point is we're really excited to see our books in stores and see people carrying them and stuff.
Yes.
Like,
oh my God, for sure.
Yes.
So high.
Okay. Okay, so how has being a part of Gen Z and writing for younger readers of your own generation impacted your work?
Yeah, I think that being Gen Z means like I feel like really connected to my target audience, I think. And like when I am writing, like I feel like I don't feel that far removed from being a teenager. Like I was a teenager like 3 years ago. So I feel like I'm still like in that mindset of like chaos and just like living on TikTok and like doing stupid things and making stupid decisions, like, you know, so I feel like it's easier for me to write YA in that regard because like when I'm writing like in a teenage voice, like it just comes very naturally to me. I always say like I don't think I could ever write middle grade because like I'd be like, where's the kissing? Like what's going on? Like when are they gonna make out? Like I don't know. Um but yeah, I think that in that regard, it's been really helpful. But I also think it's been really helpful just like connecting with my audience itself. Like when like people are tagging me in not reviews, but like tagging me in tweets being like, oh, like I read your book and I loved it, like blah, 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 or like whatever. And they're like, I can clearly see they're like a Stan account. Like they're like, you know, like they're from Twitter. And I'm like, I used to be a Stan account on Twitter like a few years ago. Like I'm like on the opposite side now, but I know exactly what's going through your head. Like I've been in Tumblr, I've been scrolling through those tags, like I've been on all of that. Like I lived on AO3. I mean, I still live on AO3. But like, you know, like I know what that's like. So I feel like it helps me like connect with them and talk to them and like in a way that they also feel like I'm relatable to them, which I think is because it's true. Like I'm literally sitting here always crying over some character or another. So it's like that sometimes. But yeah, I think it's been really helpful in that regard and just like connecting and like being able to write in that headspace.
I think that's so obviously I'm a little bit older than you, but like I feel like that was similar because when I was writing Meet Cute Diary a couple years ago, I was your age. I remember like people like when I was like going on sub with it, people were like, "Wow, like you know the teen voice in this book just feels so natural," and I was like, I mean, you know, like it just happened recently. Like I still remember that. But I think thought it was kind of funny what you said about like I could never write middle grade because like where is the kissing? And I feel like that's so funny to me because I feel like that was exactly my thought process when I was like 22, 23 was like, I could never write middle grade. And then I feel like I got like, because now I'm just like enough, I feel like removed from like the YA thing that it's like, well, I guess I can write middle grade now. So I like started writing it a little bit. But like,
Maybe I'll grow into it.
yeah, like it's like funny because I feel like it's almost like I feel like with middle grade, I was kind of like, well, it doesn't feel as natural because I can't just like talk the way I would talk or like think of the things that I would think about. But then I almost feel like I became removed enough from it that I became like, oh, well, I guess I can write it just as like an outsider, not like as somebody like trying to be like inside of the character.
Right.
But something I actually I thought I have been thinking about a lot is like I feel like obviously most YA authors are not in their early 20s.
Yeah.
And so like something that I wonder is like as a reader, like in your early 20s, how do you feel like I'm like trying to like phrase this so that it's not like coming off almost like offensive to like authors, but like have you noticed like that disconnect between authors who are writing like obviously very removed from being a teenager, and do you have like any advice on how to like I guess connect or like to bridge that gap between like you know someone who's 20 years out from being in high school versus like someone who's currently in high school?
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like most people can usually tap into like the nostalgia aspect, like when they're older, which is like, I think still applies. Cause I think that the core themes of like YA still remain the same, like becoming independent, like all of that kind of stuff. But I feel like sometimes it's like, I feel like people shouldn't make current time references if they don't know current time references. I feel like that's the one thing that trips people up. Like, I feel like everything else is fine, like the relationships, the bonds, like all of that is fine, but then they'll like mention like reference like Katy Perry and I'm like that was like 2011, like I don't know if that's like you know like so yeah. I feel like they should stay away from that, but I feel like other than that, like I feel like usually they can do it pretty fine. I feel like it's like don't force something if you don't know anything about it, but in terms of like connecting with it, I'm not really sure because I feel like I don't know how you would like go about learning more about teenagers if you're not young, you know? Like I don't know what kind of advice to give aside from like maybe just reading more and more YA and like watching what teenagers are watching and consuming what teenagers are consuming because I think that will probably at least help you get in the mindset of like what they currently are obsessing over and stuff like that. But I also don't know if like a 50-year-old wants to be sitting there like watching like Miraculous Ladybug. Like, I don't know.
I love Miraculous
I
Ladybug.
love Miraculous Ladybug too. But like I said, I don't know if a 50-year-old would sit there and watch it. Like, I don't know if they'd be like, oh my God, the love square. Like, I don't know if they get it, you know?
I'm like, look, I don't care if people say, like, I remember I started watching that show and people were like, you know, it's for like 8-year-olds, right? And I was like, it's cute. Go away.
It's so complex. Like, I will not hear slander about it. It's so complex. Like, we're gonna anyways, I can't get into this. I can't get upset about this right now. We just need to keep it moving.
But yeah, I definitely agree with what you were saying too about like the references. I feel like sometimes people writing YA feel like, oh, I have to make this like hip and trendy and try to like write what the kids are saying, and then you're just like,
just write like a normal human being. Like, fine.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying too, but like I think there are a lot of people who are, I think the people who tend to be older but who tend to write like more youthful voices tend to be the people who are really involved in fandom. And I think that's because like I mean on the one hand, like I think fandom like is like, you know, the great bridge, like whether you're 40 or like
you can be in fandom at any age.
Yeah, and it's kind of like regardless of like how old you are, if you like the same fandom as somebody who's like a lot younger than you or a lot older than you, you tend to like find things that you have in common, and like you probably interact with a lot more people who like span a wide range of ages than like if you're not really in like involved in that kind of stuff. But I also feel like in general, like I just feel like that like there's something about fandom that makes you feel like almost like timeless.
Yeah.
Like
I feel like you always feel like a teenager when you're sitting there in fandom, like no matter how old you are. Like I feel like when I'm like engaging with stuff, like I really love, like I feel like I'm reduced to being like 16 again and like just losing my shit.
Yeah, like I feel like it's like the way you can get so lost in like a story and like lost in like characters and like ship wars and like little things that are just like kind of like frivolous and fun. Like I feel like getting lost in those things, like I can almost like I'll come out of like watching a show that I really loved and be like, what year is it? Like who am I?
Yeah, like for sure. Like it'll be like my obsession for like 5 months straight, and then I'll be like, woo, we were really in that one.
Yeah, like oh crap, like, and you, like I feel like like you just completely lose. I feel like, and I feel like you almost like in like a good way, but like I feel like you almost lose like your sense of like individuality in a way, where it's kind of like I'm not one person. Like I am like
being part of a community. Like it's very wholesome. Yeah.
Like I feel like you feel so connected to like all these people and these characters and these concepts that like at the end of the day you're not like, oh yes, I am this, you know, mature adult doing these mature adult things. It's like, yeah, we just all love this character. We just all love
it's just very pure. Like it's like the purest form of like excitement and joy and sharing things.
Yeah, I love it. And I also, so I feel like, I guess in that case, I would say like, my advice, like people who are like, how do I write someone who's like so removed from me, like in terms of age, like get involved with fandom. And I feel like another thing that I just like advice I always want to give to like authors of YA is just don't drag the things that actual YA readers love. Like, don't like, and you know, and that's not to say like, for instance, like you can't hate on Taylor Swift in your book. Like, I mean, if you really hate Taylor Swift, you can hate on Taylor Swift, but like, you know, don't hate on everything that like teens love just because, oh no, I'm not like other teens. Like I feel like it's like that, like not like other girls like mentality, but it became like the not like other teens mentality. And like,
yeah, it's just like just chill out. Like you don't need to be a hater. Like it's fine. Like if you want to hate it on your own time.
Right. And it's like I feel like especially like it's one thing to have like, you know, the one like jerk who's like, you know, making fun of the main character because she likes this thing. But like I think it's another thing when you try to make it like, oh yeah, this whole friend group is so cool because they hate everything that's been popular since like 2005. And it's like, remember, like even if you hate these things, like even if you don't want to write about these things, like your target audience
you're alienating people who would want to read your book. Yeah
exactly. And it's like I'm like, I mean, and like I said, like even me, like I'm an adult, but like I've picked up books where they're like shitting on things that like teens love, and I'm just like, this makes me feel weird. Like I don't like that. Like it just makes me like sad. Like why are we dragging people for liking things. Like, look
Yeah.
at people like things.
It's a bad take.
Yeah, it's like
Just let people enjoy things. It's that easy.
You know, and it's like let people enjoy things, and like also, and like remember that like if you're gonna write for teens, like, you know, be willing to meet them where they are. Like you don't have like I think a big thing like people were talking about like was TikTok, and it's like, look, you don't have to be obsessed with TikTok. I am, but you don't have to be. But just like, you know, maybe don't like be like, wow, anyone who uses TikTok is a loser. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Unnecessary.
Yeah, it's like just be nice, please. Like, let us enjoy this thing. I hate being dragged out of a really good story because of like,
yeah,
crapping on like modern stuff.
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
Like it's not the cool thing that you think it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Like being mean to people is not actually the cool personality trait that you're aspiring to, but whatever. Oh, okay. So have you noticed any differences between YA romances back when you were a teen versus where it is now? And what hopes do you have for the genre in the future?
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously it's no longer cis het white, which is great. Love to see that. But I also feel like in general, like there's a lot less like misogyny and like casual like racism and like stuff like that. Like I feel like we're much more aware, or at least people are trying to be more aware of like what's kind of going on in the world and kind of be respectful of people's identities and stuff like that, and are like getting sensitivity readers and stuff like that. So I think that's really great. But I also like, I feel like there's something really important about us having the chance to write things that have already been written, but like to write them with like BIPOC main characters and stuff. Cause like, why can't we just have like I hate the idea of like, oh, we've already read this, but it's like you haven't. Like
you have,
like you have read the concept, but it's not the same thing because there's like a whole different cultural background or a whole different like angle to it if it's like queer, for example. Like you can't just like act like just because you've read like the fake dating trope before that no one else can write it again. Like it's almost unfair to us that we wouldn't have that chance to explore that. So I feel like I think it's really important that some of the same stories do get to like keep being told in different ways. But at the same time, I'm glad that they're being told in different ways. Like I'm glad that there is more like openness and more like acceptance and more like just like more like, because like for example, like I grew up in New York and like I've lived in New York City my whole life, so like my book is like filled with like characters who are diverse, like because that's just my reality. Like it would not make sense for me to not write that, but I feel like it's not like that doesn't define who they are. And I think that's also important, like just to like just have diverse characters just living their lives and not making everything necessarily about their identity. Like just let them exist, let them have fun, let them fall in love, let them do their thing. Like I feel like that's something that we're getting to see more and more often. Like not everything revolving us has to be an issue book, and I feel like that's important. So I'm glad that we have the like genre of YA romance and not everything has to be so serious. Not that those books aren't important, they're obviously important, but I think it's also important to see us being normalized.
Yeah, definitely. And like I think even to like, you know, going back to like what you were saying about like, you know, they haven't seen it done by like, you know, people of color. They haven't seen it done by like queer authors. And I think even even if you have seen it done by like, you know, a Black author, like
Not everyone's experience is the same.
Exactly. And it's like, you know, the fact that this one book existed 20 years ago does not mean that teens are going to find it now. And like the fact that like, you know, and especially like YA books especially have a really short shelf life. Like we generally get maybe like 6 months to a year like before like a book starts to, you know, get way less of a push by like both the publisher and like bookstores. So like the idea that like, you know, we only need like a couple, like we'll just take like one or two and that's it. Like no, like why would we only have like you know, like my take on a story is going to be totally different than your take on a story. It's going to be totally different than like other authors take.
The whole idea, like how you can give like two people the same prompt and they would come up with like two different stories. Like just because it sounds similar in plot doesn't necessarily mean it's the same. It isn't the same story. It would never be the same story. So it's like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and like, and I also think people sometimes underestimate like how many times someone is willing to read like the same story. Like,
I mean, that's what fan fiction is, right? Like, you're just reading the same characters falling in love like 700 different times.
Right, but like with just slightly different takes from each author, and I feel like people like underestimate how much we love that. We love that. Like,
Yeah.
it's like it's. I don't. I think people like, and this is like my hill to die on, but I think people like, especially in publishing, underappreciate how like consequential fan fiction is on like everything. Like culturally, it's huge. Like it's huge, and I feel like when I pick up a book, there is no higher praise I can give it than like this gave me the feeling I got reading a really good fan fiction. Like, and I feel like
I hate when people use it as an insult. They're like, "Oh, this read like fanfic," and I'm like, okay, and
like there's a reason why like I spent like 2 years of my life not reading any books at all and just reading fan fiction because it's good. Like it's
good. I saw this tweet on my timeline the other day, and it was like, "Oh, like, would you give up reading books for $10 million?" And I was like, if I can read fanfic, sure. Like, bye.
But like for real. And like I feel like people like I feel like they totally underestimate like how comforting it is to like pick up a story and know what you're gonna get. Like, and I feel like with fan fiction, of course, it's why I feel like tropes like work so well, like just like for readers, like getting readers hyped about a book, because like I feel like if you like I've had so many people say they're excited about Meet Cute Diary because it's a fake dating book. Like I don't get a lot of people who are like, I really hope you subverted all the tropes, and like I really hope it catches me off guard and there are good plot twists. But I get people going, fake dating, I love that. Like that's so cute. Like, and I feel like yes, there are people obviously who want tropes. I mean, who want like plot twists, and we want like exciting, and we want like something that's gonna catch us off guard.
Those books are marketed that way, like
exactly.
Like if you hear a book and they're like, oh yeah, this is so twisty, like the plot twist is gonna, then you're like, okay, and then you go in knowing that, like
exactly, yeah.
The best type of plot twist is one that you can kind of see coming, like not fully, but like you're like when you get to it, you're like, oh shit, I should have seen that coming because it makes sense. So like yes. Throwing in plot twists for no reason, like what is your reader gaining? Like I don't know about all that.
Like there's nothing I hate more than like an unnecessary plot twist. Like just why? Like, and like of course, I mean I had that talk with Rocky when she was on, and we were just like side eyeing like some of these shows, like, but it's like why are you doing that to your readers? Like I really do think people like forget how important and how lovely it is as a reader to like know what you're gonna get and like actually kind of get that when you want it.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like that's like just like a huge thing is I feel like people kind of go, oh well, we've seen that done before, and it's like, yeah, you have, and now we want it again. Like give it again. Like we want more of it.
It's like when I'm watching like silly Christmas rom-coms, it's like I want to see 20 of these in a row. I don't care if it's the same thing. I want to see it 20 different ways. It gives me serotonin. Like, yes, celebrate Christmas, but still, like
I'm saying, and it's like, and somebody had said that I think in a different episode where they were talking about, they're like, man, Hallmark movies are all the same, and I'm like, and it's for a reason because we want that. Like,
yeah. And it works. The recipe works.
Like I just like I always think of like being a kid and watching like Disney Channel original movies. Like those they're so predictable, they're so cliche, and like it's just,
or like how like when you're watching TV shows that are like children's TV shows that are like 30 minutes long or whatever, and every episode is the exact same, like Phineas and Ferb, like every episode they're doing something wild, Candace is trying to expose them, and then she doesn't expose them, and then they like and what you're going to, like obviously each episode is different, but like I want it. I would like to see it. I want the familiarity of that. Like if she figured them out and she exposed them, I'd kind of be like, what's going on? Like
right. Like I just think I love to like look at like shows and like movies and stuff and like think about like the things that like my publisher or like I don't know, like those like trade reviewers or something would say like in response to these. Like I'm thinking like with like Miraculous Ladybug, like you would be like 2 episodes in and they would be like, it's too convenient how they keep beating the villain. Can we raise the stakes? And it's like, no.
Well, if you're gonna get me mad again, Emery, we can't do this. I can't get mad about Hawkmoth. If I get mad about Hawkmoth for a long time, I have a lot of feelings about him, and I can't. Anyways, we need to move on.
Like, feel free to DM me about that later because I would love to hear your rant about Hawkmoth. But yeah, like, yeah, and I just feel like I there's always like I like, especially in YA, there's like this pressure, like raise the stakes, like how can we like, you know, make these things like different? How can we make this stand out? And it's like, okay, but also like just keep in mind that like sometimes it's fun, like sometimes it's just about having fun, like. Yeah, and I think I firmly believe that the first publisher who goes, you know what, we're just gonna publish books based on what does well in fan fiction is going to be like the biggest. They're going to become the biggest publisher. They're going to be the wealthiest because, like, at this rate, like I feel like there's just so much like ignoring like the fact that why fan fiction does so well. Like,
yeah,
you know, like that's it.
I can see it. I can see it. I see that future.
Yeah, right. I'm like give the people an AO3 like style website and just like make it so they can search like by fandom to find like original fiction. Come on.
It would be so powerful. So powerful. Like put in comp titles and then like have them come, like it'd be so powerful.
Like I'm like, publishers, like hit me up. Like, come on. Like we can make this happen, okay? I'll help you. Like, no, I'm just the things that we miss out on because publishers are still in like 1997 or something.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Okay, what are some tropes that you've loved writing, and what are some that you would like to write in the future but haven't had a chance to write yet?
So obviously I love the fake dating trope. I love, like, we had our whole panel about it, which like obviously you could just like you can watch below in the link. But I love fake dating. I think it's so fun to be able to write a romance without any stakes necessarily in the beginning. Like just be able to like write like the little hand holding and the forehead kisses and all of that. My second book has a celebrity love interest, which I also think is very fun. And I feel like there's not a lot of recent YA with that in it. So I'm excited to be able to kind of put a YA book with a celebrity love interest out there soon, especially like one with a POC main character and all of that. So I'm excited about that. A trope I really want to write is the soulmates trope, which I think is a product of loving fanfic, to be honest. But like, I don't know how well it would work in a book, because I've thought about this at length for a while. How like in fanfics, we like reading soulmate tropes because we already know the characters and we're like, yeah, like obviously they belong together. But if you did that in a book, it might, like, if you just have them being like, yeah, we're soulmates, like I feel like it would take the tension away right away, right? Like unless they hate each other already for some reason. So like I feel like it'd be really interesting to try to see like how you can make a soulmate trope work in a book, because it obviously has to be so different from how it works in fanfic. So I would really love to like figure that out at some point in time, but I have not gotten to it yet. But it's brewing back there. But I really want to write that.
I feel like you would almost have to like, I don't know, like invert like the order of events, or like
they can't know they're soulmates. Like they have to fall in love first. I feel like that's what it is.
Yeah, it's like, which is so funny because I actually have a project that has like the soulmates trope, and it's a series, which is why I feel like it works, because you don't know they're soulmates at the beginning, you find out later. So
I have like one idea, and it's like a multiple timeline situation, but I feel like I have to glow up so much. I'm not there. Like I can't write that. Like I don't have the brain cells for that yet. But one day we'll see.
I'm excited for you to do that. Those seem like your magnum opus. Like that just sounds so cool.
I feel like I have like 10 magnum opus.
Okay, I have like this thing that I started calling it my trifecta, and it's like 3 books that I'm like when those 3 books like hit the timeline, like that's it. Like the world will end. Like this will be like it's over. Yeah, it's just, and it's like and like I'm you know very like slyly like hinting at these projects, but also being like super like I can't tell anybody anything about them. But I'm like super like I feel like, but one of them is the one that has the soulmate trope in it. But yeah, I'm like, oh yes, this.
I have like this one idea for like, I feel like we need to bring back long series, first of all.
Okay, thank you! Thank you!
Because I really, really want to write like this one long series idea that I have, but I'm like, who's gonna give me a 5-book deal?
Okay, but like I need you. Okay, like Tashie, get out of my brain. Get out of my brain. Literally my problem right now. Like that is literally where I am.
It's like I can see the arc, like I see what's gonna happen, and I'm like, there's no way anyone would approve this unless you were like super established. Like there's no way. And even then they might not.
I'm already here. Like, okay, how can I spin this? Like, how can I trick people into thinking that it's only going to be like 2 books, and then like once it does really well, I'm like, oh look, another book.
I have more ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, like another book. But the problem is that the like culmination, like the big part that's like gonna like change everything, is in book 4.
Yeah. I feel that. Mine is in book 3. I feel that. I was thinking that maybe I could do like 3 books and then like a spin-off in the same universe. So then that way it's like still connected, but like I could sell it separately. But then I'm like, what if I write the trilogy and it doesn't do well? And then they're like, we're not gonna buy the duology after that. And then I'm like, well, damn, okay.
Like that's why I'm like listen, I can sell this book. I could probably sell it as a trilogy, right? And like I would have like the first 3 books, that'd be great. But like the big thing is in book 4, so I can't not have book 4.
It's like, how do you pitch it without pitching what happens in those ones? Unless you do, but then they're like, you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about right now?
It's like I feel like I'm almost like either it feels like the first 3 books aren't big enough, or it's like no, but like listen, book 4, but then it's like but that's too many books. Yeah. And then it's like, and then I'm like, okay, well, what if I like make books like 1 through 3 like bigger, but then
it takes away from book 4. Yeah.
Right. But then I'm like, but then when we get to book 4, is it gonna land the same? Is it really? I don't think so. And like, I don't want to do that to the fans. They deserve that book 4. Like
yeah, it's like, it's truly the bane of my existence. But you know what? Maybe we'll like rise to like Leigh Bardugo, Holly Black level, and we can just wild out and do what we want.
Like it's what we deserve. Like like and like I mean across the board, like in general, I feel like long series are so good, and like I don't know why they stopped being
grow so attached to the characters because you have them for so long. Like I feel like that's where fandom really builds, is when you have those long series. Like obviously you can do it in less, but like I feel like the long sustaining fandoms are the ones that like truly span across like multiple years.
Because they change your life. You know what I mean? Like when you can, and like I feel like this has not been a thing in a really long time. But I remember when I was a kid, like a kid, you would go to like midnight premieres and stuff at like bookstores, and like that was a huge thing. Like I feel like just like the excitement. Like I remember like getting super into like Twilight and stuff, and being like, oh my god, I'm going to like the Breaking Dawn like midnight premiere, and like I feel like that was such a big deal, and like. Yeah. I feel like you can't. You just. He's like. Don't get me wrong. Like, if my favorite author is putting out another standalone, like I'm gonna buy it. Like I'm gonna be excited about it. But like the energy that I'm gonna bring to that book.
Like, because I think about like when I'm waiting for like the last book in a series. Like, I feel like I'm going feral. Like, I literally will be sitting here like, when is it gonna ship? When is it gonna ship? Like, why hasn't it shipped yet? How do I get an arc of this? I need an arc of this. What do you mean I have to wait another 6 months? I can't do this anymore. Like, I feel like I'm like literally losing it because the anticipation is building because you already have a sense of what's going on. One day.
Yeah, and it's just like, and like I feel like too, like when you know a book is going to be a series, you can put so much more of yourself into it because like it's like for example, if you're expecting a book to be a standalone, right, and it's like 8-9 hours of reading, like you can't put your whole soul into like a 9-hour experience because then you're like, well, I'm going to be empty the second this is over. But when you know more is coming, like when you know more is coming, like what you can like give of yourself to that book because you're like, then I get to spend the next year obsessing over it, like building all these like friendships,
all the theories, all the shit posts, like everything, and like being able to be like, oh my god, what do you think is gonna happen? Like there's just so much community there as well.
Yeah, and it's like I just feel like, and there's like the fan art, and like the fan casts, and like I just feel like the way that you can go so like rabid like over a series that you love, and it's like, don't get me wrong, like I can read a standalone and I can be like super like into it, but I feel like the
It's
hype starts
different.
to
It's
die.
exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, and like it's like one of those things where like if you don't find that fandom like immediately with a standalone, you're kind of like, okay, well I guess I have to move on to something else. But like when
Yeah.
it's a series, you're like, I can just wait because I know y'all will be coming.
It's coming, right?
I got time. I can wait. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree.
And I'm just like, I miss that energy. Like I feel like it's been maybe a good like 4 or 5 years since I've had like that
Yeah, I
level.
feel like the thing is like there's a lot of it in middle grade. I feel like there's like so many like long series of middle grade, but like the YA space just is
It's
lacking.
lacking. Yeah, and it's like, and the thing with middle grade is like you middle grade does not have the same like upper age appeal that like YA has. So like with middle grade, like I feel like most readers are actually the target audience. And so like when you're actually, 8 to 12, it's not, you don't really have like that internet presence where you can like build that like rabid fandom. Like YA is the perfect age category for rabid fandom. Like we need those
It's
series.
because there was so much burnout from like dystopia back in like 2014, and now we all just gotta suffer.
Right. And I hate the concept too, because it's like, I feel like people are like, oh, yeah, well, this whole thing happened like back in like, 2012. And it's like, okay, but listen, they're not your readers anymore. Like,
Yeah,
literally, all those people who burned out on these series, they're not your target audience anymore. Your target audience just came from middle grade, where they were having these long ass series that they loved, and they're
yeah,
looking for them here, and they're not here.
yeah.
And it's
I
like,
hate it.
and it's like, why do you think like all these like books that have been like that were released, like 2012, 2015 are still so like viral? Like I feel like it's because they had that energy and then it just died. And it's like, bring it back. like I'm gonna like be out like I'm gonna be outside like HarperCollins like picketing, like bring it back. Bring it. I
I
don't
would
even know
support
what it
you.
means, but
I would support you.
thank you. I'm gonna get like a get one of those like change.org petitions. Like, can we
If it works, it works.
I'm like petition for a long ass series. Like I want a minimum of like 7 books in this next series. Somebody write this. I mean, I'm not gonna write it because I can't do that many, but somebody do that.
Somebody do it.
Yeah, I know somebody out there can do it. Look, if Cassandra Clare is still writing Shadowhunters books, there is somebody who can write a 7 book series.
I believe in that random stranger.
Right, and I do, and I think they're gonna save the industry for all of us. So I need them to just take one for the team and like get on with
Thank God for them. They're the chosen one.
it. Right, they're the chosen one. Like, yeah, I'm ready. I've been starving for too long, and I need to be fed. So that's it. Okay, what plans/goals do you have for the future, and any ideas that you hope to execute in the next few years?
So like I said before, my second book, I just announced it earlier this month. It's called A Chauffeur 2, and it's another YA contemporary, and it's based off of when Tom Holland went undercover as a student in my high school during my senior year, which is obviously very wild. Um, but yeah, so it's based on that, and it follows like the main character Mina, who like her like Emmett is the love interest, and he basically enrolls in her high school, and he's like a low key kind of indie film star who's like rising, and they get up on like the worst foot possible, and like she doesn't know he's gonna go to her school. Like they meet before he enrolls in the school, and then she sees him, and she's like, fuck. And she's like, shit, I need him to be in like the short film that we're doing, because she's like the president of the film club. And she's like, but he hates me and I hate him. So how's this gonna go? So it's kind of like her trying to convince him, and like this like bargain, I guess, that they strike together on like he'll help her if she does this thing for him. But I'm excited about that. That's 2022.
I love
And
the energy in that. It's so good.
It's so fun. Like, it's very rom-com-y, I think. Like, I think Hanging Out With You is more quiet, but A Chauffeur 2 is very rom-com-y. Like, I can see it as a movie, like, in my head, like, for sure. After that, I mean, publishing stresses me out. But I would love to write fantasy books. That would definitely be a goal of mine that I would love to do. If somebody wants to buy my fantasy book, let JL, my agent, know. We are happy to send it. Like, let me know. um, but yeah, I feel like I would love to foray into like a new genre and do fantasy, because fantasy has always been like my favorite genre growing up. When I was like reading, it's always been like the thing that I gravitated towards, and I somehow ended up in YA contemporary, which I also love. But like fantasy's always been like my first love, so it would be really exciting to be able to write a fantasy book, and like, especially because I don't think there's any Bangladeshi YA fantasy. As far as I am aware, I don't think there is. So it'd be really cool to write the first one and do that for all the Bangladeshi girls everywhere.
I I feel like every time you answer a question, I'm like, oh yes, that's me as well. That's exactly what I'm doing. Yes. I also like the book that I signed with my new agent on is actually fantasy. It's contemporary fantasy, but it's fantasy, and I'm hoping that one is going to sell eventually. I mean, it's not even kind of cleaned up or anywhere ready to go. But yes, if you're interested in my contemporary fantasy, yeah, like definitely let me know. Also, let me know if you want to give me a long series of my contemporary fantasy. I'm here for that too. But
I want a long series for a contemporary fantasy. Let me write my boarding school AU that I would love to just explore. If somebody wants to let me do that, that'd be lit.
Yeah, like, excuse me.
I don't know what happens in it yet, but please let me do it.
Honestly, I feel like if someone would confirm up front that they would give me like a 7-book series, I could fill that 7-book series with some badass books. But like, you got to tell me up front before I plan out like all these books, and it just doesn't work. Because like, I feel like it's so hard to do. Like, I feel like it's so hard to like organically do one book at a time and still make them like connect like super well.
I agree.
So, like, yeah, like let me know in advance, and I'm here for it. I'll do it. Like
the other day, I was writing up a synopsis for book 2 of this book that I wrote, right? This fantasy book that I wrote. And I was like, as I was writing it, I was like, the thing was like my agent had like asked for it kind of like very suddenly. And I didn't know what happened in the book yet. Like, I had a general idea of like what I wanted to happen in the book, but I was like, I don't actually know what happens in this book. And I was sitting there and I was like, oh, I figured it out, and then it was fine. But like, I feel like you said, like, it's when you're not organically, like, because I wrote it as a standalone, but I wanted it to be a duology, but like, I didn't want to take that chance, you know, because you don't know if they will buy it as a duology. And I was like, I don't want to put like my heart and soul into wanting a duology and then they buy it as a standalone. Like, that'd be really depressing. And so I didn't like plan it, and then like I was planning it and I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like,
yeah, like it's just like I did that with a different book where I wrote, you know, one book and I was like, oh yeah, like I could create a sequel for it, but also my sequel at the moment is like feelings and like more feelings and plot, maybe feeling.
Literally though, I was like, I mean, because I was like, okay, I guess like I would take the end of book 1 and move that to the end of book 2 instead. But what happens in between that?
Right? Like, what are we, like I feel like I can always build on like the characters' relationships, and so I'm always like, oh yes, and then they'll you know this thing in their relationship, and then it's like, so what's the actual plot?
So the thing with like multiple books though, right, is like you have to have a character arc in every book, and it's like, how much growing can one person do?
I feel like the only way, okay, so I feel like you only have 2 options, okay? Either you have to work on like each element of the character like separately. So like the first is like their romance arc, and the second is like their personal arc, and then the third arc is like their like family. Or it has to be where your character is so messed up, like such such a like non-functioning human being that it takes like 7 books to develop their character. That's what I did. And it was fun.
support that. I think that's very relatable, to be honest. I feel like I'm at that level of not functioning. I didn't even say that sentence right. That's like I'm not functioning. So that checks.
I was like, what if I just make this character like so messed up that like literally it would take like 7 years to work through all of his problems? But do that.
Sometimes it's like that. Unless, listen, it's like, you know that meme where it's like books if like books right now, and then it's like books if the character had therapy.
It's literally that. Yeah, I love like my friend who always like beta reads all my stuff is always like, so who doesn't need therapy? And I'm like, no, I don't got one. I can't think of one. Like if I think of somebody, I'll let you know. But at the moment, I think you know. Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I think everybody in general needs therapy. Everybody should go to therapy. So
valid. But like it's like I feel like there's like you know there's like I could use therapy, and there's like bitch, you need therapy.
You need therapy. Yeah.
Like my characters are like bitch. Come on.
Fair enough.
So I think we are at about time, but would you like to give one last pitch of your book and tell everybody where they can find you online?
Yes. So Carrying On With You, YA contemporary, where after Karina Ahmed's parents go to Bangladesh for 4 weeks, she somehow gets roped into a fake dating facade with the bad boy of her high school, Ace Clyde, and chaos ensues as the countdown begins until her parents return home. You guys can find me at Tashie Bhuiyan on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. It's all the same username. And yeah, I mean, pre-order the book. I have a pre-order campaign running. It's on my website. You can submit your receipt. You should check out Emery's pre-order campaign, which is also lit. Honestly, submit to all the pre-order. It's just free goodies. Like
it's free. Yeah, I'm like, if you're gonna pre-order the book, like just submit. Like you're just getting free crap for no reason. But like, I just love the power that it has. That all of your social media is just your name.
Yeah, I was really glad that like I could just do that. Like I was like, thank God nobody else has my name. Because I feel like in like when I was younger, I would always resent it. I was like, oh, nobody has my name. Like, oh, now I'm like, yeah, nobody has my name. I have a brand.
Yeah, right. Like hell yes. So yes, my book is Meet Cute Diary, the story of a trans boy who runs a romance blog and has to stage the ultimate fake relationship to save that blog from an internet troll. You can find me on Twitter. I am at Emery Lee Who. You can find me on Instagram. I am at Emery Lee Books. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which you are currently on. And you can also find me on my website, emeryleebooks.com. And that is also where you will find the pre-order information. So be sure to get your receipts in. The campaign closes at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time on release day, May 4th. So make sure to get your receipts in and collect all your free stuff. And make sure you pre-order both of our books because we're...
Think about how fun it'll be when you receive both books in the mail on May 4th. Like, that's like double the serotonin.
Like, perfect. And like, also our books have just like a really cute aesthetic. Like, I feel like they both like go, like they're very like
like yeah, like it matches. Like it's a vibe.
Right? Like just imagine these two on a shelf next to each other. You need this.
It would simply be so cute. And you'd have 2 fake dating books to read. Who could ask for more?
Who could ask for more? Like, get on this. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for watching the Meet Cute Monday series, because this is where we sign off. But I appreciate you all coming, and I appreciate all your support. Pre-order our books. Bye.